My name is Emma Callahan. I'm 28. And for almost 10 years my family just assumed I'd keep showing up. No matter what they said. No matter how they treated me. They thought I was the soft one. The dramatic one. The daughter who took everything personally and made every holiday into this big problem. And I let them think that. I used their low opinion of me like a shield? Because if they thought I was weak, they never looked too closely at the bank account that was quietly keeping their lights on. That shield shattered at 12:04 a.m. in a motel room outside Cleveland. 5 words from my father. Words he meant to send to my brother. What a joke. She really came. Anyone else might have thought, wrong number, tired guy, midnight typo. But I knew. That wasn't a mistake. That was the sentence that ended 10 years of pretending. In about half a second, the version of me that drove 6 hours with wrapped gifts in the passenger seat was just gone. What came back was colder, quieter. The woman who'd been keeping receipts without even realizing she was building a case. My family thought I was the one who needed them. Snorts, they were about to learn how wrong they were. Have you ever driven hours to see people who don't deserve the gas money? Have you ever held a gift and realized it was really just a bribe for a seat at the table? Tell me in the comments. We share stories like this every day, stories about quiet people who finally stop being quiet. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens at minute 30. The drive wasn't peaceful. I didn't spend those 6 hours imagining some perfect reunion. I spent most of it gripping the steering wheel and arguing with memories I kept telling myself were harmless. Every hour felt like opening a door to another version of the same wound. At the first gas station somewhere outside Pittsburgh, I think around 9, maybe 9:15, I remembered the Christmas I was 19. Ryan told everyone I was too sensitive because I cried after he hid my college acceptance letter under junk mail for 3 days. He laughed when I found it. Mom laughed too. Dad said, "He's your brother, let it go." Second rest stop, I remembered Thanksgiving when I was 24. Ryan announced in front of our cousins that my marketing job was basically lying with better fonts. Everyone laughed. My mother told me not to ruin dinner. By the time I was an hour out, the question in my head had changed. It used to be, will this year be different? Now it was, why am I still giving them another chance? Look, I knew the answer. I just didn't want to say it out loud yet. I glanced at the passenger seat. The gifts weren't cheap. Not the lazy gas station kind. A framed photo for Mom, from the summer before Grandma died. A signed baseball book for Dad because he used to read box scores to me when I was 6. And for Ryan, an old photo album I'd spent 3 months rebuilding from damaged childhood pictures. I restored each one by hand. Backyard forts. Bike races. The summer we both had chicken pox and watched cartoons for a week. There was this one picture of him at 9, asleep against my shoulder, mouth open, still holding a plastic dinosaur. I almost left that one out, but I included it because I wanted to believe tenderness still mattered. Here's the thing, I knew it was a gamble. Years ago, drunk at a cousin's wedding, Ryan admitted he missed the version of us that built forts in the basement. 1 sentence in 10 years. And I built 3 months of work on top of it. That was my mistake. I pulled into the driveway around 7:40. Cars packed along the curb. Silhouettes moving behind the curtains. Nobody came outside. Nobody waved. I sat there for a minute with the engine off, listening to the heater tick as it cooled. A dog barked 2 houses down. The cold worked its way through the floor of the car. I carried the gifts to the porch anyway, balancing them against my coat. The wrapping paper crinkled under my chin. I heard laughter before I even knocked, warm, easy laughter. The kind that always seemed to exist right up until I walked into a room. Then Ryan opened the door. Green sweater with a reindeer on it. Holding a drink. Already smiling before he saw my face, like he'd rehearsed this. "Oh my God," he said, turning his head toward the living room. "Everybody look. Emma actually came back to do Christmas drama this year." A few people laughed because they thought they were supposed to. My Aunt Rachel didn't. I noticed that. "Merry Christmas, Ryan," I said quietly. He looked down at the gifts, then back at me. "You drove all this way with props. That's commitment." Snorts, my mouth opened. Nothing came out. He leaned closer. Lowered his voice just enough to make it personal. but not enough to keep others from hearing. This year's for family. Not you. Then he shut the door in my face. Not slammed. That would have looked cruel. He closed it with this slow, deliberate click. Like ending a meeting. I stood there with my gifts in my arms, listening to the laughter leak through the walls. For a few seconds I did what I'd always done. I searched myself for the crime. What had I said? What had I done? What was wrong with me? That my own brother wanted me erased from Christmas before my coat was even off. I could have left then. Should have. But the old training was powerful. Family meant proving you weren't difficult. Family meant knocking again, even after the door had been closed on your face. So I raised my hand and knocked a second time. Took almost a full minute before the door opened. This time it was my mother, Susan. Her smile was too wide. Her eyes already nervous. "Emma," she said. Like she just found me waiting there by accident instead of abandoned on her porch. "Come in, sweetheart. It's freezing." She hugged me quickly. Her body was tense. Over her shoulder I saw Ryan by the fireplace, lifting his drink in this tiny toast only I could see. My father, David, sat in his armchair looking down at his phone. Didn't ask why I'd been left outside. Didn't ask what Ryan said. Just looked up and gave me this smile that told me to behave. That was the first real betrayal of the night. Not the joke. Not the door. The silence. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon and roast beef and old expectations. Everyone acted like the front door never happened. Aunt Rachel hugged me longer than anyone else. For 1 second I almost broke. She whispered, "I'm glad you came." I believed her. But across the room, Ryan was already holding court. He'd always been good at that. Could bruise someone with a single sentence and then make the room thank him for the entertainment. I set the gifts beneath the tree. Smoothed the torn corner of one with my thumb. My hands were steady now, and that scared me more than shaking would have. I was beginning to feel the kind of calm that shows up when something inside you stops asking for permission. Mom clapped her hands and announced the gift exchange. Desperate to drag everyone back into the holiday script. Dad opened his baseball book and smiled with real surprise. "I used to talk about this team all the time. You remembered." "I remembered a lot," I said. He glanced at me, maybe hearing something under the words, maybe choosing not to. Mom opened the framed photo of her and Grandma and pressed her fingers to her mouth. "Emma, this is beautiful." The room softened. Even I softened. And then Ryan reached for his gift. I knew before he even peeled the paper that I'd given him too much power. He unwrapped it slowly, performing. "Let's see what the city genius brought me." He opened the album. His expression changed for half a second. I saw it. So did Rachel. Something human passed across his face and vanished. Then he laughed. "Wow, a scrapbook. Did your marketing budget collapse this year?" A few relatives chuckled weakly. I stayed quiet. He flipped through the pages with one hand. Too rough. Bending the corner of a photo I'd spent an hour repairing. "Look at this," he said, turning the album toward the room. "Emma's trying to remind us she was normal once." My chest tightened. I didn't move. "I made that because you once told me you missed those days," I said. My voice was calm enough to make people look up. Ryan's smile twitched. "Yeah, well, I also used to believe in Santa." He tossed the album onto the coffee table. It landed open, pages bending under their own weight. "Careful," Rachel said quietly. Ryan looked at her, annoyed. "What? It's not a legal document. It's just old pictures." Then he turned back to me. "Besides, I'm shocked she had time to make it. Don't you spend your days convincing people to buy garbage they don't need?" He lifted his drink. "To Emma, queen of professional manipulation." The laugh that followed wasn't loud, but it was enough. Didn't matter that some people looked uncomfortable. Didn't matter that Mom whispered, "Ryan, stop." What mattered was that nobody stood up. Nobody said that was cruel. Nobody said she drove 6 hours to be here. Nobody said you don't get to speak to her like that. I looked at the album lying on the table and saw more than bent pages. I saw every year I tried to turn pain into proof of love. I saw the checks I'd written when Dad's medical bill came due in March. Saw the utility payment I covered last February when Mom said they were embarrassed and begged me not to tell Ryan. Saw the car insurance draft that had been coming out of my account for 8 months because Ryan's business was going through a rough patch. I saw how easily they accepted my help in private and laughed at me in public. Mom reached for my hand. Honey, he doesn't mean it like that. There it was. The family prayer. Asterisk, he doesn't mean it. Don't take it seriously. Keep the peace. Asterisk, I gently pulled my hand away. Then how does he mean it? The room went quiet. Ryan rolled his eyes. Here we go. No, I said, still looking at Mom. I'm asking. When he humiliates me at the door, how does he mean it? When he mocks my job, how does he mean it? When he turns a gift into a weapon, what exactly is the loving interpretation? Mom's face lost color. Dad shifted in his chair. Ryan leaned back, annoyed that the room had stopped following his rhythm. Emma, Dad said carefully, it's Christmas. Let's not make this bigger than it needs to be. That sentence finished something in me, because it was already big. Had been big for years. They'd only called it small because I was the one carrying it. I walked into the kitchen before I said something that couldn't be taken back. Not because I was afraid of Ryan, because I was afraid of how clearly I finally saw everyone else. The kitchen was bright and crowded with dishes waiting to be carried out. The fridge humming. Somewhere above me, the ceiling fan ticked unevenly. I felt strangely separate from all of it, like watching a scene from behind glass. I poured water into a cup I didn't want and stared at my reflection in the dark window over the sink. I looked older than I had that morning. Not because of the drive. Not because of the cold. Because hope ages you when it keeps disappointing you in the same room. My phone was in my back pocket. I could feel the weight of it. Months of screenshots. Bank transfers. Confirmation emails. Text messages from Ryan that started with, hey, don't tell Mom and Dad, okay? And swear I'll pay you back when the business picks up. I'd saved them without knowing why. Labeled the folder miscellaneous receipts because even alone, I'd been ashamed of preparing to defend myself. Part of me wished I'd done this years ago. Dad came in first. Closed the kitchen door halfway. Not all the way because in our family, privacy was only allowed when it protected the person causing the problem. Emma, he said. I know Ryan can be a little much. I almost laughed. A little much. You know how he is. Yes, I said. I do. That's the problem. Dad rubbed his forehead. You're tired from the drive. Don't let one comment ruin Christmas. I turned around. It wasn't one comment. Then don't let old things ruin Christmas. They're not old if everyone keeps repeating them. Before Dad could answer, Ryan pushed the door open with his shoulder, grinning like he'd arrived to collect applause. Are we holding a crisis meeting because I didn't cry over a scrapbook? Mom followed behind him, anxious, wiping her hands on a towel. Rachel slipped in last and stayed near the doorway. I noticed she wasn't there to perform peace. She was there to witness. Ryan pointed at me with his glass. You know what your problem is? You come home expecting everybody to act like you're some tragic movie character. Maybe people would treat you normally if you stopped acting wounded all the time. I felt Dad tense. He still said nothing. Mom whispered, Ryan, enough. In the same weak voice she'd used for years. The one that sounded more like a suggestion than a boundary. I set my glass down. Do you remember senior year? Ryan blinked. The grin faded. What? Senior year. When someone told half the school I cheated on my scholarship essay. Mom frowned. What are you talking about? Ryan's jaw shifted. Oh my God. That was forever ago. So you do remember. It was a joke. It cost me 3 friends. 2 teacher recommendations. Almost my scholarship interview. The room went still. I'd never said that out loud in front of them. Back then I swallowed it because Ryan cried first. Said he was sorry. Said he didn't know people would believe him. Said I was making him feel like a monster. Mom hugged him. Dad told me not to destroy my brother over a teenage mistake. And somehow I became responsible for healing from a wound everyone else filed away as family drama. I didn't know that, Mom said. Barely audible. You didn't ask. Ryan scoffed. Are we seriously doing a trial over high school gossip? No, I said. We're doing the truth. Finally. I turned to Dad. When I moved to the city, Ryan told everyone I left because I thought I was better than this family. He never told you I sent money home 3 months later when your hours got cut. Dad's eyes snapped toward Ryan. Ryan looked away. I kept going. Stopping now would have been another kind of surrender. When Mom called me crying about the heating bill, she asked me not to mention it because she didn't want Ryan embarrassed. So I paid it. When your truck insurance was about to lapse, Ryan called me. Not you. And said he just needed help until his business picked up. I paid that too. Mom's towel twisted in her hands. Dad's face hardened slowly. Not at me. At the shape of a truth he'd spent a decade avoiding. Ryan's voice dropped. You don't need to announce private stuff. Funny, I said. You never had a problem announcing private stuff when it made me look pathetic. He stepped closer. You think paying a few bills makes you better than us? There it was. The trap. If I defended myself, I was arrogant. If I stayed quiet, I was guilty. I took a breath. No. I think paying bills quietly while being mocked loudly makes me done. Mom's eyes filled. I didn't soften for her tears this time. I'd softened for them too many times and called it love. Dad finally spoke. Ryan, is that true? Did Emma pay your insurance? Ryan laughed once. Short and ugly. Why does it matter? She has money. Rachel's face changed. That's what you said last summer. Every eye turned to her. Ryan froze. Rachel crossed her arms. At the barbecue, you told Mark that Emma was easy to guilt because she was desperate to be included. You said if your parents ever needed something, you could get her to cover it. As long as nobody thanked her too much. The silence after that wasn't empty. It was alive. Ryan looked at Rachel like she'd betrayed him. I looked at her like she'd opened a window in a burning room. Mom sat down in the nearest chair. Dad's mouth moved. No words came out. And me? I felt something colder than anger and cleaner than grief. Confirmation. The most painful kind of freedom is realizing you weren't imagining it. Snorts. Ryan recovered the way people like him always recover. Not by apologizing. By changing costumes. His face softened. Shoulders dropped. He looked around the kitchen like he'd been ambushed by cruelty instead of exposed by consequences. Wow, he said quietly. So this is what we're doing? Turning Christmas into a public attack on me. Mom reacted immediately. Her body leaned toward him before her mind could catch up. That had always been the choreography. Ryan wounded someone, then looked wounded, and Mom rushed to stop the bleeding he created. But this time she stopped herself halfway. I saw it happen. Her hands opened, closed, then fell into her lap. Ryan noticed too. Panic flashed behind his eyes. I'm not attacking you, I said. I'm describing what you did. You're humiliating me. At the front door you humiliated me. In the living room you humiliated me. For years you humiliated me. The difference is I'm using facts. You use jokes. Dad's voice came low. Ryan, answer the question. Did you say that about using your sister? People say things. Rachel said. You said it. Stay out of this. No, Rachel answered. I stayed out of it too long. That sentence landed heavily. Because it didn't belong only to her. It belonged to everyone in that house who'd laughed, excused, minimized, or looked away. The kitchen door creaked wider. Several relatives had gathered near the hallway, drawn by the voices. Ryan saw them. And immediately changed again. More theatrical now. You all know Emma. She comes back once a year, acts superior, throws money around, and then expects us to worship her for it. I felt the old reflex rise in me. Defend. Explain. Prove I was kind. I let it pass. Didn't need to perform innocence for people who'd watched enough to know. Dad stood up. She didn't throw money around. She helped us. Ryan turned on him. Because she wants control. No. Dad's voice cracked in a way I hadn't heard since Grandpa's funeral. Because we asked. Mom covered her face. Dad continued. Slower now. Ashamed of every word. We asked. And then we let you talk about her like she was selfish. We let you make her the outsider while she was helping keep this house running. Ryan stared at him. Stunned. Not because the truth hurt him. because Dad had finally said it out loud. I looked at my father and felt no instant forgiveness, just this dull ache. Recognition mattered, but it didn't erase years of cowardice. Do you know what the worst part is? I asked. Nobody answered. It's not even the money. It's that I kept thinking, if I was useful enough, thoughtful enough, quiet enough, eventually someone would defend me before I had to beg for it. Mom started crying then. Emma, I'm so sorry. Ryan laughed under his breath. Unbelievable. She gets one dramatic speech and suddenly I'm the villain. Rachel stepped forward. You made yourself the villain when you enjoyed hurting her. He glared at her. And you're perfect? No, she said. But I know the difference between teasing someone and training a whole family to laugh when they flinch. That was the first moment Ryan truly looked afraid. Not sad. Not sorry. Afraid. The power he'd held for years was simple. He controlled the story. Emma was sensitive. Emma was dramatic. Emma thought she was better than everyone. Emma couldn't take a joke. But now the story had cracks. And through those cracks everyone could see the machinery behind it. Dad walked past him into the living room. A minute later he came back holding the photo album, placed it on the kitchen counter and smoothed the bent page with his palm. His hand lingered over the picture of Ryan asleep on my shoulder. You were her brother, Dad said quietly. You should have protected this. Not mocked it. For the first time all night Ryan had no joke ready. He looked at the album. Then at me. Emma, he said. His voice softened into something that might have fooled me 5 years earlier. Look, I'm sorry if you felt embarrassed. I closed my eyes for 1 second. There it was. The counterfeit apology. Sorry if you felt. Sorry if you took it that way. Sorry if the wound inconvenienced the knife. No, I said. Try again. Snorts, his face hardened. Excuse me. Try again. Apologize for what you did. Not for how I reacted. The room held its breath. Ryan's eyes flicked to our parents, searching for rescue. Nobody moved. And that, more than any speech I could give, was his first real consequence. Ryan didn't apologize. Not really. He mumbled something about things getting out of hand, then retreated to the living room where he could gather sympathy from whoever still wanted the easier version of the night. For 20 minutes, the house existed in this strange, broken quiet. Dinner was technically ready. Nobody sat down. Mom kept wiping counters that were already clean. Dad stood by the fireplace with the album under one arm, like he was protecting evidence. Rachel stayed near me. I was grateful. I was also exhausted in a way support couldn't fix. There's this special kind of tired that comes from being believed after years of being dismissed. Feels good. But it also makes you mourn every earlier version of yourself who deserved that belief sooner. I went to the hallway to get my coat. Mom followed me. Please don't leave. Not like this. I looked at her face. At the woman who'd loved me and failed me in the same breath for most of my life. How should I leave? Quietly, so everyone can pretend it wasn't that bad. She flinched. I don't know how to fix this tonight. You can't fix it tonight. Then stay. Let us start. I wanted to believe her. That was the dangerous part. Some part of me still wanted to sit at the table, pass the potatoes, let Dad make a clumsy apology, let Mom cry over dessert, let Ryan avoid my eyes and call that progress. Then I heard Ryan's voice from the living room. Low but not low enough. She's stressed from work. You know how she gets. Everyone's acting like I committed a crime because Emma needed attention. The hallway went still. Mom heard it too. Her face changed. She said nothing. That silence answered the question I'd been asking all night. Ryan wasn't sorry. He was editing the story in real time. I walked into the living room. He stopped talking as soon as he saw me. The people around him looked guilty, which told me they'd been listening. Keep going, I said. You were explaining me. Ryan stood. I was trying to calm everyone down by telling them, I'm unstable. I said stressed. You said attention. His nostrils flared. You twist everything. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. My hands weren't shaking now. No, Ryan. Tonight, I'm untwisting everything. Snorts. I opened the folder I'd made months ago. Not because I planned a Christmas confrontation. Because I'd started saving proof for myself. Screenshots of bank transfers, utility confirmations, insurance payments, messages from Ryan. Asterisk don't tell mom and dad, okay? They'll worry. Asterisk you know they listen to you more because you're the successful one. Asterisk I'll pay you back when the business catches up. Swear. Asterisk. I held up the phone. Not dramatically. Not triumphantly. Just clearly. For anyone who believes I use money to control this family. Here are the payments I was asked to keep secret. Here are the messages where Ryan asked me not to tell you. Here's the insurance he told dad he handled himself. Here's the heating bill mom told me she'd pay back and never did. Here's the catering deposit for tonight's dinner that dad said he was short on. Dad's face went pale. Emma. No. I'm not doing this to shame you. I'm doing it because shame has only ever been assigned to me. And I'm returning it to the correct owners. Ryan moved toward me. Put your phone away. Rachel stepped between us without hesitation. Don't. The whole room saw that too. Ryan stopped, humiliated by the fact that someone thought I needed protection from him. I looked at him and finally understood something simple. He'd never been powerful. He'd been protected. There's a difference. I put my phone back in my bag. I'm leaving. Mom started crying harder. Dad said, Emma, please. Ryan muttered, of course. Big exit. I turned to him. No, Ryan. Big boundary. Then I picked up my coat, walked to the door, and did what I should have done the first time it closed in my face. I left. The cold air hit me like truth. I placed the remaining gifts in my trunk, got into my car, backed out of the driveway while faces watched from the window. 5 minutes later, parked beneath a gas station light trying to breathe, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. For half a second I thought maybe it'd be an apology. Instead it read, asterisk what a joke. She really came. Asterisk my whole body went cold. Then another message appeared immediately. Sorry, wrong chat. I stared at those words until they stopped being words and became a door. Not the front door. The final one. I smiled. There was no joy in it. Only clarity. I opened my banking app. One by one, I canceled every automatic payment connected to them. The utility backup card. The insurance draft. The house repair installment. The storage unit Ryan used for his business inventory. The family phone plan I'd been quietly covering since spring. Then I logged into the catering portal and removed my card from the remaining Christmas balance. Not revenge by destruction. Revenge by withdrawal. I didn't take anything from them. I simply stopped letting them take from me. The calls started before I reached the highway. Mom. Dad. Ryan. Mom again. I didn't answer. I pulled into a motel 2 hours from the city because my eyes were burning. Checked into a room with a flickering lamp, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed while my phone kept buzzing. 11 missed calls. 23. 38. Rachel texted. Asterisk I'm proud of you. Also, your dad just found out Ryan told Uncle Mark he paid the catering deposit. It's bad here. Asterisk 10 minutes later. Asterisk your mom asked Ryan why he let everyone think he was helping them. He said you owed the family because you left. Your dad lost it. Asterisk. You owed the family because you left. There was the hidden rule. Leaving for college made me disloyal. Building a career made me arrogant. Having money made me responsible for everyone who mocked the way I earned it. Coming home made me dramatic. Staying away made me selfish. There'd never been a right answer. The game had never been designed for me to win. By sunrise I'd slept maybe 40 minutes. 66 missed calls. The final one was from Dad. Asterisk please. We need to talk. Asterisk I sat by the motel window watching pale morning light spread over the parking lot. I didn't feel victorious. That surprised me. I'd imagined revenge would feel like fire. Like satisfaction. Some dramatic rush of justice. Instead it felt quiet. Heavy. But clean. Snorts around 7, Rachel called. Ryan left, she said. He tried to make it about you again. Your dad asked him to show proof he'd paid even one of the bills he bragged about. He couldn't. Then your mom asked him why he shut the door on you. What did he say? Raquel sighed. He said he thought it would be funny. Funny. That word had carried so much cruelty for so many years. Nobody laughed this time. That was the revenge. Not the canceled payments. Not the missed calls. Not even the exposed screenshots. The room he'd trained to protect him finally refused to perform. A week later, Dad asked if we could meet with a family counselor. Mom asked what boundaries I needed before I ever came home again. Rachel mailed me the photo album with a note. Some memories deserve better rooms. Ryan never apologized. Not in a way that mattered. He did lose something, though. He lost the automatic laughter. Lost the shield of being the golden son. Lost the version of the family where everyone protected his comfort by sacrificing mine. I lost something too. The fantasy that if I loved them perfectly enough, they'd finally stop hurting me. Losing that fantasy was painful. It was also freedom. The Quiet Door channel produces these narratives for educational purposes, to show how people trapped inside families that punish kindness can use clarity, evidence, and quiet boundaries to reclaim their lives. We believe withdrawal is not cruelty. It's correction. 5 things this story made clear. 1. Generosity is not a debt the recipient gets to weaponize. 2. Silence at the table is its own kind of cruelty. 3. A joke is not a joke when the same person is always the punchline. 4. Shared blood does not equal family. 5. The bravest exit is the one that finally stops asking permission. Thank you for listening to the end. What do you think about the moment Emma chose to cancel the payments instead of confronting her brother one more time? Was withdrawal stronger than words? Share your thoughts below. And I'll see you in the next story.